Afternoon. I'm back for part two. I had a couple of folks that requested that I show the process of putting the epoxy on the urn. What I'm using for epoxy is Alumilite, and it's the Amazing Clear. It's a two-part, 50-50 equal parts, I should say, 1-to-1 ratio. I've got it mixed up already, and I have the piece mounted on my old lathe that I've got the motor attached to, and I'll show you pictures of that. Alright, you can see this is how I'm driving this. I've got a small electric motor connected to the back of an old lathe, and it's hooked into the spindle. That way I can use my chuck on the spindle to hold the piece while I apply the epoxy. First I want to shut this off. At the top. Nice thing about this Alumilite, you get about 40 minutes open time with it, and it degasses, or the bubbles come out quite easily. I do use a torch to help that process along. And I'll be doing 2 coats on this. Probably won't show the second coat because it's just more of the same, one might say. And you would want to have, you may not be doing a painted piece or whatever, but you want to seal it if you're not already sealed, because the epoxy will absorb into the wood. And then of course, if you're going to do multiple coats, I guess it's not quite as important, but I've experienced it, if your wood is spalted or punky, it just keeps absorbing. Oops. Really does make the piece, the colors jump right up. Kind of gives them a wet look when it's done. I originally saw this done, I don't know if anybody's heard of the Molthorpes, but there's 3 of them. There's the oldest, Ed, he's dead now, but he was featured in Fine Woodworking years ago, and then his son Phil, and then his son Matt. And they all woodturners that do quite artistic pieces, and I think Phil is the one that developed this process, keeping the piece moving or whatever. Probably done by somebody else too. But I seen a guy from Canada doing it too, SG Wood Art. I think he does sinks, great big things. Pretty cool looking. I've got a little bit of shrink wrap on the inward jaws of my chuck, just so any epoxy that drains down there won't set up on there. It comes off pretty easy. You can chip it off if you do get it on there. I speak from screw ups. And when I'm done with the epoxying, I will recut the bottom, the base, and the top. I have it recessing both sides so that I can get at it and work either way. About there, ain't I? Oops. Go. Okay. This stuff takes about 8 hours to get to a touchable surface, and about 24 if it gets real hard. I'm just going to make sure I got it all covered. And this motor will be running probably for the next 8 hours now. And I've got a box that I've made to cover it because I don't want to get any dust in it. Inevitably some will. I just find it just seems like no matter what you do, you get a little bit here and there. I can see this is going to take at least 2 coats. This got, it's spring porous wood, ash, and even sealed. It still doesn't give you a completely flat surface, kind of like, you know, oak or even walnut to a certain extent. It took about an ounce and a half total. I mixed up about 2 ounces, and I got probably at least a half an ounce left, maybe a little bit more than that. And I'm putting a little bit more on the center because that's where it's going to move. It's going to always move to the outside. What do they call that? Gravity? Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and torch it. It's nice because you can actually see the bubbles coming out. Just want to keep it moving. You don't want to burn the epoxy. There. Looks pretty good. Get stuff out of the way. Covered up, and she'll go for about next 8 hours like this. Okay, we're back for a second coat. As you can see, I'll spin this around. I've sanded it back with I think I used 220, yeah. Basically, it was just to get any of the dust nibs out. As you can see, there's a few pitting areas where the epoxies just didn't take as well, or probably absorbed a little bit into the undercoating. And we'll do a second coat, and when that is cured, I'll bring you back and let you see what that looks like. And if all goes well, we'll proceed then to turning off the bottom and the top and making a top for it. Okay, let's get started. Same epoxy. This is Alumilite, equal parts, 1-to-1 ratio. I mixed a little extra this time because I've got a bowl I got to make a repair on. So, but you only need about, for something this size, probably 1.5 ounces. I know when I mixed my pigments last time, I think I didn't use quite enough dispersion water, and it left some little pitting areas. You can see them all over it. They're really small. They're not very deep, but it was actually, in essence, dry pigment, just little particles of it. Torture. Okay. Now when this dries, I'll go ahead and bring you back and show you. It's actually, I should have probably mentioned, it's been about 10 days since I put the first coat on. I let that fully cure. It's a lot easier to sand. When it's not fully cured, it just gums up in your sandpaper. We'll talk to you later.